About 5 months ago, I decided that I wanted to start making Minecraft videos, but I had no idea where to start. So like any logical person, I decided the best way to get into it was by making a replica of the Roman Colosseum in Minecraft Pocket Edition. In today's video, I will tell you some tips that saved me hours when building on a phone, based on my own mistakes. When I first got the idea to create Arcadia SMP, I knew a major aspect to the series that I wanted was mega builds and high graphics, which was ironic at the time because when I started, I hated building. I felt like it took too much time, I was only working on Pocket Edition, and overall, I just thought I wasn't that good. But after learning how to build like a highly effective builder, it became one of my favorite parts of the game. The first build I ever made on Arcadia SMP was the Colosseum and the City of Fuego, which honestly took a lot longer than it probably should have because I didn't learn how to use command blocks or structure blocks until the Colosseum was finished. And I ended up making giant TNT craters while trying to clear out trees that I'm still trying to cover up. The Colosseum took about 3 months to make because I built everything by placing one block at a time. But in comparison, the Solar Empire Castle took only about 1 month because I used a lot of structure blocks. I didn't just run into building problems with the Colosseum, but also some storage issues on my phone that caused my realm to shut down multiple times and lag out my whole game. Which is partially why I decided to switch to PC later because I knew I would need a lot of storage for what I had in mind. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you want to make a really large build, I'd say anything over 100 blocks wide with any sort of complex redstone. Make sure you have enough storage before you start, or you'll end up like me. Before starting on a super ambitious build, you should start by finding some reference photos and some good sizing templates. Personally, I'm a big fan of using Pinterest boards and finding random images to inspire my builds. When I first started building, I had a hard time coming up with my own designs because I wasn't really sure what I was going for. And for the Colosseum exterior, I ended up trying to replicate an image that I saw online. While that can be helpful for learning and starting out, you should always try to make your own original work, and for that reason, I plan on remodeling and improving the Colosseum and tweaking some parts of Fuego in the future now that I know a little bit more about how I build, so stay tuned for whenever I do that. Next thing I highly recommend is getting super comfortable with the structure block, even more so than just a command block. I don't always recommend using a command block unless you are already super comfortable with some commands, because in my experience, when I've tried to use it with no knowledge ahead of time other than just some tutorials, I've made some pretty big messes that took quite some time to clean up. However, some things I have been able to do with a command block thanks to the help of many tutorials was flattening out the mountain for the Solar Empire. So I do see where it can be helpful. This is just a personal preference since I'm usually more exact with structure blocks. When using the structure block before building, I always make myself some simple templates that will help me as I go, such as large erase templates, or if you want to use the same thing you built once, this is just a very helpful way of copying and pasting. Here's some examples of some templates that I like to make for myself. I heavily recommend saving some clearing templates of any size that you may need for your build, especially if you're making something underground or you just need to clear some trees. Something major that's helped me before I started on any build has been making a quick wireframe for where I wanted everything. It doesn't take too long, and it's always better to plan in advance so that you know you have enough room for everything. I used wireframing in the Solar Empire Castle as well as the dungeon, and the same for the Colosseum and Warrior Statue in Fuego. Because the Colosseum was the very first thing I made on the phone, I made many mistakes with the wireframe. If I could go back now, I think I would have tried to better plan it out in relation to the other Fuego monuments, but I am not doing all that again. Another mistake I made with redstone on the phone was adding in large contraptions after I already built in everything around it. This goes for huge doors, sometimes elevators, and anything that is known to take a lot of space. Always plan out what redstone contraptions you want to add before actually building everything around it, because sometimes depending on what you make, you'll have to rebuild everything around it anyways to hide redstone lines or any ugly behind the scenes stuff. This happened to me when I was building the prison door for episode 1. When I was making the door, I had to remake it multiple times because the blocks around it were either too close or confusing to see when I was trying to fix a problem. And actually the first time we recorded the prison scene, I forgot to check if the door was still working, and this ended up happening.
Looks like our door is broken. That's unfortunate. I guess we're gonna have to pickaxe our way through.
I spent the next week trying to figure out what mistake I could have made, and I got so desperate that I even sent the screenshot to ChatGPT to ask what I did wrong. And all it said in response was that I was dumb and it was impossible to fix. And that made me so sad, but after I cleared my space and rebuilt the entire door from scratch, it began to work again, and without the help of ChatGPT or any tutorials. So definitely try to keep your workspace as clean and clear to see when building. Majority of everything you can see in episode 1 of Arcadia SMP was built on my phone. I didn't get my PC until about a month ago as a birthday gift, which was basically after I already built the major monuments, like the Solar Empire Castle, the Colosseum, the statue, and the Ring of Fire. Some things I did build on my computer, however, were the prison, the trees, and some decorations around Fuego. But all the mega builds were solely done on an iPhone, so don't let your platform stop you from making the build you want. Because if you have a clear idea, you can make it on anything. Some additional stuff that helped me a lot when working on the phone specifically was learning which controls were the easiest for building. Personally, the control I found the most effective for spam clicking and deleting was the joystick and aim crosshair. Changing to these controls helped me save a lot of time, but it's also about using the controls that work the best for you and help you work the most efficiently. Although many of these things seem really simple, when I put them all together, it helped me save a lot of time, even cutting down how long some of these builds took to make by months in comparison to the Colosseum. If you want to see more of my builds and future projects I'm working on, consider subscribing since that helps the channel a lot, and I make a new video every weekend, and Arcadia SMP episode 2 is coming out really soon, so stay tuned. Bye!